Hello, in the second tutorial we are going to have a look at how to start Jupyter Notebooks, our primary research environment, and how to work with Jupyter Notebooks. As a second step in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to run some simple morphological queries in both the Old Testament Hebrew and the New Testament Greek text. So let's get started. So the first thing that I do when opening a Jupyter Notebook is I go to the Anaconda prompt. There are two different ways of starting the Anaconda prompt. You could also go here and use the Anaconda navigator. That might be handy for those who are in a Mac environment and don't want to use the console. It'll take a while until all the Anaconda applications are loaded, but then you will see this window and it will allow you to directly launch the Jupyter Notebook. If you just click here, you can also use the Jupyter Labs. It's an alternative environment, but both allow you to work with Jupyter Notebook. So you just have to click on launch on these icons. Well, the reason why I don't like the navigator is because I need to first, in my environment, I need to first go to the hard disk where I actually have all my notebooks. So in my case, that's hard disk number D. So now I'm hard disk number D, and now I can go to my folder that contains all my Jupyter notebooks. Here is my folder, TextFabric, enter, and now I will type the command Jupyter Notebook. And it will start the web browser for me in exactly the folder where I directed where I went to in the Anaconda prompt. Okay, so let's go to the notebook that I've created just for this tutorial. You can actually download it on my GitHub. Here it is. And now we have exactly the protocol that we're following in this session. You see, we are loading. We're going to do some simple word-based queries, and we're going to export our queries in this notebook. So here you have the instruction again about how to start a Jupyter Notebook. You see the two options, either using the prompt, the terminal, typing Jupyter Notebook, as I just did, or open the Anaconda navigator and click on launch, and we'll also open the Jupyter Notebook. Alternatively, you can use the command Jupyter Lab or click here on Jupyter Lab launches. Okay, let's get ready for our session. So what we first do, we are going to load the TF program, the TextFabric program, and then we're going to load TextFabric databases. So the first cell, the first command cell is loading TextFabric. The second command cell, you see here, BHS, is going to load the BHSA database. Let's do that. So it's loading the BHSA database. And in the third block, we are going to open the Tischendorf database. So let's do this as well. So what we now have is we have TextFabric, the program, loaded, and we can now present to TextFabric both the Old Testament, BHS, as well as the New Testament, Tischendorf text. Good, everything is ready, so we can now start doing some simple word-based queries. So there are many different ways of running queries. I have here a couple of categories that we can experiment with. You see here lemma searches, that's basically searching for words, then some morphological searches, and some word frequency searches. This is just a startup, so there are many more options, obviously, possible syntactical queries, much more complicated word searches, but we're just getting started. We want to learn the most basic things at this moment. So let's search in the BHS the word Abram and Abraham. by typing word, means we're searching for word, and we want that word to have the feature lex. Lex stands for lexeme, for lemma. And that lexeme is supposed to be a very specific one, namely Abraham or Abram. You see here this little sign. This stands for the and or function. That basically it means we are searching for Abraham and or Abram. Why I'm writing this in transliteration? It's just much faster to write in transliteration. You can also write it in Hebrew, but then you would need to use another feature. That would be lex UTF-8, and now you could write those two names also with Hebrew consonants. We'll learn this in a different tutorial. Okay, good. So the lex feature is the object type. The lex is the feature of the object type word. So that's basically the terminology that we're using here. So word is the object type. There are different object types, for example, phrase or clause, sentence or word. It's an object type, and each object type has many features. Yeah, for example, lex or number or person or whatever. So that's the feature. And then this is actually the value. It's a specific value that this feature has, a feature that belongs to this object type. Okay, good. So let's do this. We are giving our query a name. You always have to do this. We give this query the name BHS Abraham search. And then we define what the query is supposed to do. This is what you see here in the quotation marks, word, lex, Abraham or Abram. And then we want to say, once we have defined the search, we have defined it as BHS Abraham search, we say we want this search to be executed by the TextFabric search command. We have defined BHS. We have defined BHS up here. BHS means it's the loaded we are going to use. It's the loaded BHSA text, BHS database. So BHS basically means this is your corpus, this is my corpus, and in this corpus I want to search this search, which is this. Okay. Now, when I execute this command, it basically searches it. It searches this search. So, well, I want to see the search results as well, and this is by adding another command, the BHS show command. It basically shows me. What does it show me? It says, show me the query results of this query that you just ran here. Okay, good. Let's do this. Here you have it. Here are our query results. You see, Abram is highlighted, appearing in Genesis 11:26, 11:27, Abram again, 11 Abram, and so on. It shows me the first 10 results. It starts with result 1 and it ends with result 10. Obviously, I can show much more of the results. I just don't want to fill the entire page. That's why I limit it to the first 10 cases. But I could also say, show me from the 4th result until the 6th. So I would just have 2 cases now. 11:31, Abram. You see, it's not starting anymore at earlier verses. It's now the 4th instance of Abram. And here's my second case, chapter 12. Yeah, and that's it. Not more showing. That's because I limited to 6 cases. Okay, let's go back to 1. Let's do it to 5. Okay, good. So here I have here it shows the query results that I have defined. Yeah, 1, 2, 5. I could also say, show me the table. I mean, the nice thing about the show is that you see the entire structure of the sentence. You see, the sentence consists of 1 clause, and that clause consists of 4 phrases. I can also say table. Now the nice thing with table is that I'm just seeing what I'm actually searching for, namely this word. I'm not seeing the entire structure. I'm not seeing the context of each of those cases. I'm just seeing the word table. Going back to show, there are many ways to add actually more information in your show case. You can do this by selecting extra features. So you can say extra features. And then say, I also want to see, for example, function, phrase function. So function, now you can close it again. So, for extra feature, might have written something wrong. Is, I think that's, yeah, extra features is, so the equal sign I forgot. So you see now, also the function information, phrase function information is added. This is a conjunction phrase, vayhi terach, shive im shana, and it was terach 70-year-old. So phrase function is now added. This is a conjunction phrase, this is a predicate phrase, this is a subject phrase, and this is a time phrase. You could add more features that you also want to see. Let's say you want to see, the Hebrew writing of each lexemes, which is lex UTF-8. So what you now see is you have now also the lex features being presented here. Yeah. So you can see them here. Avram would be written like this in Hebrew. Okay, good. So we have run just a simple BHS query looking for the word Abraham and Abram. Abraham does appear obviously, but not in chapter 11. Would have to look for some further cases. Let's go down to the first 10 cases, and we should get Abraham very soon after we have passed chapter 12. We're still here. Let's go 10 to 20. And now we should get to Abram. Table, so that's quicker. It still looks for all Abrams. So if we go much higher, then we'll see here Abraham. Yeah, Abraham starts appearing. Also Genesis 17. Yeah, Genesis 17. Okay, good. So just getting this back to what it was. Let's do a query in the New Testament. In the New Testament, we say we want to find Abraham in the New Testament, anti-Abraham search. Then we define the search. We are now searching for Abraham, which is a value. I'm just now trying to use the proper terminology. The value of the feature, which is called unlexlem, just the lexeme, written in Greek, feature of the object type word. Yeah? So the value of a feature of the object type word. And then we run again the same thing that we also did up there in the first search box. So we execute it with Shift Enter, and now you find all the cases where Abraham appears in the Tischendorf text. And again, you can choose for show if you want, and it will show you the verse structure, or you can use table and it will list you a spreadsheet. Okay, good. So there are many ways of simplifying searching the Greek text, but for that you need some extra TextFabric files. I recommend watch this little video, and it shows you how you can add further features to your TextFabric folder, which allows you to, for example, search with LexOG. LexOG is basically the alternative to writing in Greek. It is a transliteration of the Greek into Latin characters. So let's test this. I've loaded already LexOG. So you have that feature also once you follow these instructions here. So I'm searching here again for Abraham in the New Testament, but this time I'm just writing in non-Greek fonts. I'm non-Greek letters. I'm writing the Latin transliteration. Word Lex Abraham, and I tell the system that I'm also interested in finding all Greek writing forms. So let's run this query, and here it is. You see it shows me the unlex lem information because I specified it here. That's the Greek font. Here you have it, the Greek letters, sorry. And of course, it shows me the transliterated form here, Abraham. Okay, good. So you can of course do many words in one verse. In this case, we are searching for Jesus, Theos, Eimi, Ego. And we also show the system that we want to see the unlex lem version. When we go to show, you'll see that we see both lex OG, which is this one, and the extra feature unlex lem, which is this one. Okay, good. So these were simple word searches. In next tutorials, we will learn much more sophistication. We can define the direction of these words, the order of these words, the spaces between these words, but that's something for another tutorial. Let's now go to the morphological features. Here we can, for example, look for the first singular futurum 1 of Eimi. So we just define the search. In this case, it's in me. You can use any type of name, test, for example. Yeah? But I like to give my searches a name that seek to represent what the search is actually doing. Eimi. So word PS stands for person. Person is 1. Number is singular. VT is verbal tense. Is futurum 1, future 1. And then in transliteration, I write Eimi. Let's run the query, and here we go. It finds me all cases where Eimi appears in singular with first person in futurum 1. And so, of course, I could change this. Let's say I want to find all first person singular forms of Eimi. I just took future out. And here we go. We now, and let's say we also want to see the verbal tense information as an extra feature. So, okay. So what you'll see now is that we find, for example, Eimi with present tense, in present tense. And here we have Eimi in present tense, and so on. Yeah. So let's add the verbal tense is future 1 again. Here now we find only the Eimi cases in future 1. Esomai. Okay, good. So we can also look up a simple verse. In this next query, we want to show John 1 verse 1 and want to see all the morphological features of each word that appears in John 1 verse 1. So we're looking for book is John, the chapter is 1, the verse is 1, and then we want to find any word with its case, gender, mood, noun type, number, person, part of speech, voice, verbal tense, unlex lem information. So let's run this. And here we go. You have a whole list per word. Ein. It's from Eimi. Doesn't have a case, doesn't have gender. It's an indicative. It's obviously not a noun, so it doesn't have a noun type. It's singular, third person, verb, active, imperfect. A look at logos. Logos, it is nominative, and it's masculine, and it's singular, and it's a noun. In this way, you can show much more information by just looking up a verse and then adding the features that you want to see. Okay, let's go to word frequency searches. This is the last category of searches that we are going to do in this tutorial. So you can also list words and restrict the words by their frequency, how often they appear in the Old and New Testament. This is very handy if you're trying to work, for example, on a vocab booklet for your students. So let's see how often each word in Matthew 1:1-2 appears in the entire New Testament. For this, we use in the show function the extra features option, which I introduced to you already earlier. We want to show both the Greek lexemes annex lem as well as the frequency of the distribution, namely frequency of each lex, by writing, and here's the code, we add this into the extra features. Okay, so let's do this. We're searching Matthew chapter 1 verses 1 or 2, and or 2, verses 1 and or 2. So it's basically Matthew 1:1-2. And we want to show all words with this information. Let's run the query. Here we have it. So Biblos appears 10 times in the New Testament. The word Geneseos appears 5 times. Jesus appears 908 times. So we can now further specify our query and say, here, imagine your Greek class knows all the Greek vocab down to a frequency of 10. Next week, you want to translate with your class John chapter 3. Thus, they have to prepare by learning all words that appear with a frequency of less than 10. You want to create a vocab list for them. So we have to start identifying the words by using the feature frequency of lex OG. So, good. So here we go. We want to find John chapter 3. And in John chapter 3, we want to find each word that has a frequency, and here comes the clue, with less than, you see here this sign, less than 10. And then I'm basically saying, show me the gloss information, the annex lem, the lex OG information, and so on. Okay, good. So let's run this query. Here we go. I show it in table form. So John chapter 3, and here's your word. Nicodemus obviously appears less frequent than 10 times, and Geron appears less frequent than 10 times, and Pneu less monogenes, and so on. So is this true? Well, let's show. And here we are. Yes. Nicodemus appears 5 times only. 5 times Nicodemus. Next verse. Geron. Geron appears only 1 time in the New Testament. Or Pnei, from Pneo, appears only 7 times. Yeah? So basically what we got is, we got a list of all words that appear less than 10 times in John chapter 3. Now in a future tutorial, actually the next tutorial, I'll show you how to export these results and build a little vocab booklet. For now, we're just showing you how to export data. So we have done a couple of queries. Think of the Abraham search in the Old Testament or the Abraham search in the New Testament. So what we have to do in order to export our results to start the further data mining processes, we have to use the export function of TextFabric. So in this case, we say we want to export from the BHS database the results of the search, Abraham search, the one that we run at the very beginning. It's this one, BHS Abraham search. See, this BHS Abraham search, we want to export the search, we want to export, and then you type your directory. In my case, this is the directory, and within that directory I want to export my search results as this file. In the Mac environment, it will look a little different. If you're on your main drive, you probably have to use /users/ and then your name and then the data, the folder structure that you want to use. Okay, good. So let's do this. In this command, I'm exporting my BHS Abraham search into this folder, and I want it to have this name. I could name any name I want, but I like to give it the same name that my search actually had. That way my mind remains more organized. So I've exported this, and let's export also our New Testament search. Now that's exported. Our New Testament Abraham search is also exported, and I gave it this name. And you know, the Otheos, I also want to export this other third query that we did up there. I called it Otheos. I want to export this as well. Okay, good. So we have now three searches exported, and you actually see these searches in the folder to which you exported them. So I exported them into the Fabric text folder. You see here, Fabric text folder. So if I go here to the Fabric text folder, I should see them here. Let's modify by date. And here it is. Yeah, the Abraham search, the New Testament Abraham search, and the Otheos search. These three I just exported in these three commands. Okay, now we have done this. We get to the final step. We want to analyze our data. In order to analyze our data, that is the search results, we need to load our analysis features. We're doing this here with this command. You can just copy paste this into your notebook. And now we are loading the Abraham search that we just exported. So we are loading it by reading CSV file. It's a pandas command, read the CSV file, which you find here. That's exactly the folder structure in which we just exported our BHS Abraham search. All right, and now you see this is the information that you find in this Abraham search file. You have R, S1, S2, S3. These are perhaps weird names. You can change them later on, but these are just the column names that were provided once we exported our search results. So then we load also the New Testament search. Here it is, the one that we exported. Excellent. Here are our column names. And now we can start basically data analysis. How to do this, we will learn in the next tutorial. Okay, good. So just as a recap, what did we do? We opened a Jupyter Notebook. We loaded different TextFabric databases. We did some very simple word-based queries, and we exported our query results as TSV file. And we opened those TSV. We read these TSV files. We opened them again here in our final section. As an assignment, what you could do is think of two words that you would like to search in both the BHS and the New Testament text. For example, Adonai or Kyrios and Elohim Theos. Since you do not yet know how to write your word in a TextFabric acceptable way, you can simply look up the book, chapter, verse where they appear. In the BHS, this should look like this, book, book, and then your book, Let's say you want to search for a word in curious, well, that Adonai, Yahweh appears in Genesis 2, so you might want to say book is Genesis, chapter is 2, verse is 1 or 2, first couple of verses, 1 or 2 or 3 or and so on, and then show me this information. And with the Tischendorf text, you would use this command, and once you run the commands, you will actually see the verses with all their lexeme information, and then you can search for the words by just copy pasting the lexeme information into your query. So you can use the queries that we have used here and just alternate them. So instead of this, you would have to write Yahweh, or instead of this, you would have to copy paste the Greek Kyrios, or type it in transliteration Kyrios here. Okay, so that would be an assignment. Search for your words and then export those TextFabric queries with the export function, and then we can do some data mining with your queries next time. So what's next? We'll learn how to do some data mining, working with these spreadsheets, and we'll also learn how to visualize your data. Okay, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, I will hear that in the tutorial session when we have it face-to-face, or just drop me an email and I'll respond. Bye-bye.